people and pulling them over on the side of the road. This is what your mayor in Temecula can do now. And so he's been in trouble for that. And then when they opened up that investigation, they found that somehow $300,000 of his campaign money has ended up in his sister Lori Stone's account. And not only that, his sister Lori, who is not any kind of government official in this valley, is driving a government car paid for by the taxpayers, and she gets to fill that gas tank up at the little station they have for the government employees, where she gets a big break on what it costs to fuel up in California, which is no small amount, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So Jeff Stone is the mayor next door, and he's in trouble. And not only that, there has been a documentary done on a sting operation, a so-called Jump Street 21 type operation that happened in the Temecula High School, where cops were basically entrapping autistic kids and kids who had no friends, and would harass them until they would finally, one of these kids tried to go buy a marijuana cigarette off of a homeless guy just to get this cop off of his back. And as soon as he took the little marijuana cigarette to this cop posing as a student, they arrested this autistic boy. And that has been made into a documentary, which is actually really, really good, about how law enforcement in Riverside County is off the hook. And since we have filed our civil suit with this civil attorney that has taken this mess on, she has found a case that's very recent that this family has been awarded $7.8 million because the sheriff's department shot this defendant in the face, and he was in a shed with no windows and no doors, surrounded by 10 cops, and they couldn't get him out of there without causing him to be a vegetable for life. He's brain dead. And they won their case. And it really, really, they've already done a lot of our legwork for us, showing the level of corruption that the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, these corporate private police departments in this valley are. And the courts are private, the juvenile hall is private, and the jails are private. And it's a business.
Well, exactly, yeah. They're turning this into a cash cow, and on top of this, you have, of course, not only what the police departments are doing, but then you have, asset forfeiture, and what the lawyer judge kind of, piece the mob is doing in this case as well.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So pretty much in a nutshell, that's where our story is. And, every time we do something more public like this, we can't help but wait for them to retaliate, because they do it pretty much like clockwork. But you know what? That's just the way it's got to be, because as scared as we have been off and on through this thing, we have been able to move past that to a large degree. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
I feel like, I begged God for these children of mine. Dave and I were married 7 years before we had our first child. We had issues with infertility. These children were wanted. We wanted to be and continue to want to be the best parents that we can be. We want to leave this planet a better place than when we came here. And we want our future generations, our great-great-great-great-grandchildren, to not be living in a police state ruled by a government that is no longer any semblance of representing the so-called people.
Yeah. Well, you're right.
What I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
God help me.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, the time for bending over for these people is over, but
children's lives depend upon it.
Yeah, well, exactly, and people have been complacent for way too long, and but think about it as well. When you put all of this in perspective, how much time and effort and energy are spent on these ridiculous things and these law codes and everything else, and of course along the way these people have jobs. They can make their boat payments or whatever, but I mean, in terms of America, your country is falling apart from within. Endless national debt, federal level corruption on a massive scale, APAC run foreign policy with endless wars and endless stream of illegal immigrants that are getting all the help and assistance they can possibly get along the way here. And here you guys are being treated as the biggest terrorist threat that America is currently facing in these times. I mean, it's unbelievable when you put these things in perspective, you know?
We were in the news too, Little Marietta, because we had one of those processing centers that they were bringing those buses across the border, and people were out protesting. Here in our little town, I don't know what kind of test site we've been designated to be as far as, you know, how far demilitarized boots are going to be tolerated by a bedroom suburban community with crime.
Yeah.
But we are one of those towns now that has a tank.
Right.
We are one of those towns that has a militarized police department. And I just, you know, if I was guilty of anything, it was sitting on the couch being complacent too long with what was going on in our local politics.
Yeah.
You know, we're business owners in this town. I was a busy nurse and a mom and back in school, and I haven't had a lot of faith in the political system in a very long time. And my thing was, you know, peaceful non-compliance. I'm not going to comply with laws that violate natural law, common law, God's law. I don't care who wrote it down and said it's the law now. That is not the law. That is legal code and statute, and it's a counterfeit, and it's man-made. And these are your elected legislators doing this?
Yeah.
They're the real criminals, really.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
We've got to start there with these people who are making up laws that say you have to give up your DNA when you haven't even had a day in court. You're not guilty of anything yet, and they want part of your body.
Yeah.
Your genetic code. I mean, look what they're doing with genetic engineering on this planet.
Yeah.
This is no small thing, folks, to give up your DNA to somebody. You can't trust law enforcement anymore that DNA isn't going to be duplicated and end up at a crime scene somewhere in another state where you have never even been.
Yeah, that's right.
This planet has just gotten completely out of control.
Yeah.
We have to unite as human beings and realize that these people who have self-appointed themselves in positions of so-called authority that have actually authored nothing. They are order-following people who are, most of them, I think, are ignorant to what they are doing. Not all of them, but some of them. And I just beg the members of law enforcement who are the good guys to be oath keepers, to stand up for being officers of peacekeeping, not code enforcement.
Yeah.
That's my basic prayer and wish. If I can start to see that happen before I die, and my kids have to, you know, take up this for their kids and, you know, the future, and other people too. That's what I want to see, is just that this police state is being turned very well around. That we, the people, are not going to take it. We're not going to take it. This is not okay. To traumatize 12-year-olds over made-up evidence, even if he had committed another crime and painted on a wall, does this merit SWAT invading an American home and 4 humacious militarized officers waking up a 12-year-old child in his bed sleeping?
Yeah.
What has happened to America? I mean, anybody who even follows Cop Block or something like that for 5 minutes will see the amount of violence, police brutality that is going on across the world, and now America too.
Yeah, these roid ragers, you know, they bring them in and they find just the right people for this too. They just love it, you know. So it's amazing.
They're not full-blown psychopaths. They're almost there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I want to know in Riverside County, where are the good cops? Because not a single member of law enforcement in Riverside County has stood up in our defense.
Well, maybe there isn't any. Maybe this is one of those areas where, the mob has taken over completely in that regard, or the mob, you can call it whatever you want, but it's basically being criminalized.
Yes, because it's pretty disheartening. It's pretty disheartening that not even a single member of law enforcement has stood up publicly and said, this is overreaching. This is ridiculous that a SWAT team invaded a house 5 weeks after a child confessed to doing this and was going to face the consequences of that. And we were going to do our best to make amends to our neighbors and people that, the ante got upped there at the end when my son joined with another boy. And they did. They did some ugly stuff to some of my neighbors' fences, to which I felt very badly. And the so-called cleanup that Marietta does, they took a beautiful red cedar fence that one of our neighbors put up, and my son and his friend had put darker red spray paint on it. Their means of cleaning up that beautiful new cedar fence was to make a big square with black paint. And when we offered to make remedy out of our own money to fix it right, we were told we could not do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an insane world.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy, crazy world.
It sure is. Dave, did you have anything you wanted to add to that as well?
Well, I guess just that in regards to, the law enforcement officers, I've had, over the years in practice, many, many patients that fit that bill. And from probation to sheriffs to police to, various different capacities. And I've had a great relationship. And, I would say I have retained most of my patients. I've always been extremely ethical in my practices and my dealings with my patients, with my friends, family, and so forth. And, unfortunately, there's still, no matter what, there's a percentage of people that tend to believe what the media shows no matter what until proven otherwise. And because of the biased slant, I'm taking a hit right now, because of all the stuff that's been published without any rebuttal being possible. So, I really have high hopes that this will help in terms of at least, letting other people know what's really going on behind the scenes, and that courts are not like you see on TV. Neither is the police department.
No.
Nothing like what you see. It's been an eye opener for us, and we're still living it. But we have had tremendous support from people that weren't necessarily great friends, but have become good friends, because it's amazing who
you find out who really loves you and who really supports you. When stuff like this happens, there's no gray area on that anymore. And that is a painful thing to go through all on its own. But we just we love Red Ice Creations and all that they have taught us to be independent thinkers through the years. And we are taking our part seriously to be the change we want to see in the world. And anybody who has a couple extra bucks to throw our way, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it, because they're counting on the fact that they've broken us financially, and that's one way to keep us from fighting this fight. And we don't want to give the fight.
Well, exactly. That's a really important point, and that's one thing I wanted to give you guys opportunity to mention and give out as well. The website, it's an email basically, PayPal, where people can actually help out, and because you said you needed more now, because there is actually, was it the last process? It was $700 short for this, and you wouldn't be able to file, or what's happening there right now?
We literally didn't have that back then, and it just precluded going that way. And bless this civil rights attorney who's taken this on. She literally is doing this for, literally what we can come up with. Every few months, we try to give her a couple $1,000s to fight this fight for us, because they've exhausted it already.
Yeah.
We paid this Michael Levinson $15,000, and he never filed a single motion on our behalf. He showed up to court 2 hours late twice. Dave got threatened with being put in an orange jumpsuit and sitting up with the prisoners if his attorney was late again. He didn't tell us he would be, taking a plea offer for a substance that never entered into this situation. He was playing both sides, as a lot of attorneys do.
Exactly, yeah.
And it is just a sobering experience to go through. And we are going to try to take him to arbitration because we feel, it was complete negligence on his part. But, God works miracles, and we believe that everything that man did is going to work for our ultimate good, as is every part of this situation, because, frankly, we are the good guys. We are good people. We have practiced natural law our entire life to do no harm to our fellow man or our fellow man's property. And we were trying to teach our son a lesson in natural law and how what he did was wrong, and this is how you make it right in your community. And, let's not sentence a 12-year-old immature kid to being a bad person for the rest of their life. You just can't even believe some of the comments that grown adults have made in some of these E-line papers like the Marietta Patch about our son, a child. I mean, when the human race is ready to just throw kids away along with everybody else, it's just a sad state of affairs. And you've done many, many shows lately, especially just talking about how people in general and the white Caucasian race hates themselves lately.
That's right. Yeah.
And they have no value in themselves and their ancestry and where they came from originally, let alone American history, which I'm the first to admit has been completely suppressed and false information is taught every day.
Yeah.
People who want to get out there and actually read a book or two can get to the bottom of what is actually the general theme of truth and the general theme of falsehood, and get a pretty good picture of where we've come from. And I'm telling you, the human race in general has a lot to be proud of. And it is the people that ought not to be in control of this planet for real, and their puppet governments, who are making us believe, or try to make us believe, that we're not worthy to be on this planet as human beings, whatever color you sport, whatever culture you came from. And they continue to perpetuate these lies of multiculturalism when they really just want it to be a controllable monoculture.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm telling you, I'm fighting against all of that for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be who God made me to be, and that my children are who they are. And we as a family are committed to living natural law on this planet and leaving it a better place when we leave here.
Well, it's very inspiring to hear you guys, and the battle that you've chosen to take on. Well, it's kind of it showed up at your door, but you decided to open that door, and great. You're very brave for doing what you're doing, both of you, and managed to hold out in a scenario like this. And I mean, it's incredibly important that more and more people do what you have done and not back down in these kinds of situations and decide that that's it. That the bullshit is over. It's time to deal with these things head on and face the, grab it by the horns, and that's just how it is. Now, what is the advice you would give to people who potentially ever would end up in a similar situation? I mean, I know that you guys did a lot of good stuff, meaning you collected certain, you were paying attention, it seems like, and these are in situations where it's very difficult to do that, but kind of collecting evidence along the way, it's very important in whatever capacity you can. Write things down, memorize things, take photos, whatever you can do that, but what maybe more emotionally, but I don't know, but what is the advice you would give to people who would potentially end up in a situation like this?
Well, first off, I would advise everyone to research truly what rights they have to their children in the country, state, county, city in which you live. Start there and look at it in black and white as to what your rights are considering your children. And teach your children that, if you ever get accused falsely or you get caught doing something stupid while you're growing up, you do not have to talk unless you have a grown-up there with you. Your parent, an attorney, something. Or you use your constitutional right to not self-incriminate yourself. Don't talk to police.
Yeah, always minimum amount. Never say more than you have to, very important.
I mean, if they've got a gun in your face, and, we know they're shooting people left and right. They're shooting dogs, shooting cats.
Yeah.
They're invading wrong homes and killing children. And they're getting put on paid leave for that. But you got to start there with what are your rights to your children and how do you want your children to potentially handle themselves until we get this police state turned around, because they can go on to school campuses. They can take your children off of the school campus without even notifying you. And then I would advise everyone to get those little mini cameras that you can have on your keychain, because once you are in the crosshairs of law enforcement, you're going to need it. And you need to be able to record anything they do, and it is constitutional to record in all 50 states of the United States of America. And find out what those laws are in other countries, what your rights are as far as taping what is going on. And like you said, key, your memory is going to fail you. When incidences happen, put it in a formal affidavit that you write at the time it's fresh in your memory. You date it, you time it, you put it in a file somewhere, because you're going to need to draw on it at a later time, and keep a timeline of what's going on, a chronological list of events, put it in your calendar, make notes, because let me tell you, if somebody had told me that 19-20 months after my son was arrested for spray painting a electric box on the street right outside my neighborhood, that we would still be doing this, and my husband would have been arrested on other manufactured charges, I would have not been able to even conceptualize it.
Yeah.
And so the notes that we have taken along the way have literally been a lifesaver.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is rare. The last statistic I read was these kind of home invasion, SWAT invasions of homes on these warrants is happening no less than 100 times a day in the United States of America alone.
Really? That much?
Yes.
Wow. Well, what is next here? I mean, I know you have some things to clean up here, guys. There's certain things obviously that needs to unfold here, and please feel free to keep us posted on these developments as well, so we can keep our audience alerted to these developments and whatnot. But do you want to leave town, leave the county, the state, maybe even the country? I mean, America is a big place, and it's certainly not the same everywhere, I believe. But don't you just want to kind of uproot from where you are?
Barring that this thing doesn't play out and we see massive changes in our own local government, our own corporate city, the way it's being managed, the way the private corporate police department is being managed, we want out. There has to be, and we're doing research right now, what states are being the most favorable to free state projects, safe haven projects, which states have the most unincorporated townships where there are no plans to incorporate them into a corporate beast of a city. Because who do you complain to? The mayor or the city manager? Because in essence, we're really living in a giant Walmart that has neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And you're going to the city manager to complain about his employees from the private corporate police department. Literally, these entities are for-profit corporations. They are being traded on Dun & Bradstreet. They have shareholders to keep happy. They have to make money. And they've brought on this militarized police department in a town where there's no crime.
But they're looking to expand the prison, too.
And they want to expand prison or jails out here. It's just diabolical, really. And so starting there, and trying to figure out, we would like to leave the country, quite frankly. But where do you go?
Where do you go? Yeah.
The one world government is marching its boots over the entire face of the planet.
And you have different tyrannies in different places, different flavors of it, you know.
So right now, our fight is here. Dave's on a $50,000 bond in the city in which we own a business and have lived since 1999. And so this is where our fight is first, to get out of this mess, however that ends up playing out. Because let me tell you, they want him in jail. At our last felony settlement conference, the offering from the deputy district attorney was for him to plead guilty and turn himself into booking to start a 2-year sentence.
Yeah.
For a natural substance that was 3 years old, that is inert, that was only known to even be in existence between David and myself.
Yeah.
That's what this is about, guys.
Literally a spiritual molecule, and it's a spiritual battle.
Yeah, well, exactly. There we go. Yeah, exactly. That's really what it is. I think at the end of it, it takes shapes in very different weird ways, and it plays out in different ways. But you know, at the end of it, it's difficult to think it like that when you're right in the middle of the heat of the battle. But at the same time, I think it's good that these kinds of things do unfold and happen, because this gives us an opportunity to expose this level of corruption and to do something about it. And I think, you know, if people do what you have done, you know, standing as an example to other people, stay brave, you know, and stand your ground, I think, and continue to do what you know is right, I think there will be a reward for that at the end of it. Not that that's maybe the carrot one should think about right away, but nonetheless of keeping your spirits up in terms of just knowing that what you're doing is the most you know, perfect thing that you could be doing about a situation like this. So I think you guys should be very proud of yourselves, you know, for what you've done.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And there is power in numbers. So those people out there who may be having something like this erupt on their doorstep, you know, recently or in the near future, I hope you will stand up with us. Be brave. Stand up with us. Question things. Question them from the beginning. And we have to collectively take on this fight. We just do.
Thank you so much, Dave and Kim, for joining us today, sharing your story with us. But do keep us posted, and if further developments arise, please just contact us, and we'll have you back again, and we'll continue to talk about the story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Henrik.
We appreciate it a lot, Henrik.
Well, there are a couple of things I want to mention in closing here. I know that Kim and Dave downplayed their financial situation during the interview. They didn't really express it all too well, but I can tell you that they do really need financial help. I happen to know that they have ended up in debt, a lot of debt, and they've lost their house because of everything that has been going on. But primarily because they've chosen to take on this battle instead of laying down and just submitting to everything that has happened to them. You know, as they explained, the legal costs to fight on, you know, this kind of level is beyond ridiculous. So they do need help. They need assistance, and you can help them if you realize what is at stake here, and that this is a you know, great step forward in terms of someone who's actually trying to stand up to corrupt law enforcement and a legal system that tramples all over people. So let's help some of our fellow people out, fellow Europeans or European Americans. There's no special treatment or protection for us in these kinds of situations. We are left out on the curb to rot, and we are largely on our own. Unfortunately, we've become isolated, and we have to help each other out, and we have to organize when things like this do occur. It's just as Frank Salter said on our show, the government has now turned on its own people. It's turned on us, the people it's supposed to represent. But we don't have anybody representing us anymore. Society is not ours. And this case is a perfect example of that harsh reality. And especially, mention that again, especially when someone walks out on a limb to hold the state and the police accountable, who is policing the police. So they do need help, and you know, if they basically could bring these people down, hold them accountable, I think it would stand as an inspiration to more people to follow in terms of what can be done to help to remove the scum that has risen to the surface within the legal and police structure. I wanted to make sure that we got the right, PayPal email account out for the Dortch Family Legal Defense Fund as well. The email is david.dortch@gmail.com. That's david.dortch, DORTCH, @gmail.com. I know that a lot of people, they buy cigarettes and alcohol and other stupid stuff without any problem, but as soon as it's concerning helping people like ourselves, like-minded people who are trying to do something, taking on a battle, unfortunately so many people fall short. So let's not continue in that track. The only way we'll be able to get out of situations like this is to help each other out and show that sense of brotherhood that we've forgotten about, seems like to me anyway. So let's break that bad spell. So donate to them if you can. We're also going to have a email link up on redicecreations.com and redicemembers.com. So click from there if you do want to help out. Now, we're also going to stay updated with this story, and hopefully we can get some more updates. And we'll keep you posted on what's, unfolding with this bizarre and just horrible case. But we do hope for the best there, of course. Well, we're going to be back here in a few days. We're going to have a Halloween show actually coming up with James Swagger. We're going to get into some good pre-Christian Celtic and Druidic traditions and the Scottish-Irish origins of Halloween and Samhain.
That's not what's coming up here, so that's dated. You are listening to WIOFLP Woodstock 104. It is about 4 minutes after 11 o'clock, and you are listening to Pot Talk with Joe Barton and paulagloria. The public access TV station here in Woodstock is off the air, so they and other producers are here. And now back to Joe and Paula.
Okay, now we played this. We really wanted to get all you people out there to hear this, because it's so common what these people are going through. This is going on all over this country. Me and my son have been through it up here in Woodstock and Hurley. Paula and me have been through this same stuff down in New York. Our courts are so corrupt right now. It's time for all the people in this country to start banding together and start taking on these courts. And if you get arrested for anything, don't roll over for these people. Don't plead guilty. Fight them every way possible, because they're acting in a criminal manner. These courts are corporate courts, and they're there to make money. And the police are a private corporation. They're not there to protect the rights of the people. They are there as a corporation to make money. And that's what this is all about in the case of the Dortches. And that's what it's been about for most of the arrests that we have going on here in Ulster County and all over the United States. So it's time for all you people out there to get involved. We would hope when we're going to have them call in, they're going to call in a few minutes, and we would hope that people here might be able to help them out. I'm going to try to ask them to give the address of the court, and if people here, I mean, it don't take that much to write a letter and to put a stamp on it and to send it to the court saying, we see how you're screwing these people around. I mean, be polite, say, we see how these people are not getting justice. We see how these people are being railroaded. And we're from New York. If people from New York started writing in and people from other states start writing in, it's not just about this little town out in California. It's now become a national thing, and we need to do that. And we need to start organizing court support groups. When someone's going to court, if there were court support groups where, say, 20 or 30 people all went to witness what's going on in the courts, and if people just stuck up for each other, we are all in this together, And right now, it's really the government against the people. And unless the people unite, they're just going to keep taking us down one at a time, one at a time.
The corporation against the people.
Yeah, it's right. Actually, it's a corporation. We don't have a government anymore. We've actually done many, many shows on that. For those of you who listen to our shows, the United States of America is incorporated. Every state is incorporated. Every county is incorporated.
Or municipalities within the county.
Right, are also incorporated. And it's time for we the people to take back our country. And you know, I can't believe that, again, everybody has voted in the Republicans, the same criminals. The Democrats were bad, but now you've even put the worst ones in, you know. I don't vote anymore because I don't vote for criminals, and that's what we have in our, that's all that they're offering us. The big corporations that are controlling the politicians, that are controlling our courts, that are helping the banks to rip off and foreclose. Like down in New York, there's 60,000 homeless people on the streets in New York. And this was created, this was intentional, because they have FEMA camps that eventually they want to fill. And so they're going to keep doing this to more and more people. So it's time for all you people out there to wake up. We have to unite. We have to work with each other. We have to help each other. Lucky for me and my son Jay, when we were going to court, lots of people showed up at our trial. And the fact that lots of people were there, the judge couldn't shut me up so much and couldn't override me. And when we were going to Hurley, the first one was in Kingston, then it was in Hurley, then it was in Saugerties. I mean, these people, they don't stop. If you're one of these people that isn't going to roll over, or you're going to stand up to them, and they're aware that you're going to stand up to them, they're going to keep attacking and keep attacking. And the fact that we do TV shows and expose them makes us a target. But we're willing to do that. But we need more and more. If enough people did what we're doing, not just me and Paula, Rod Class, who's now in jail.
Okay, hold on. We'll put you right on.
Okay. How you doing? Are you on the?
Let's get her up.
Okay.
Okay, try that.
How you doing? Can you speak so we can set the volumes here?
Yes. Hi, this is Kim Dortch. I'm calling in, and I'm ready to go.
That's wonderful. We just played an hour and a half of the Woodstock audience here, and actually we broadcast quite a distance all over the county.
Maybe Randy could say where we broadcast.
So they've heard where we a lot of your story. And first off, let's start it off. I just did a lead into this, and I told all the people here, if people from New York would write to this court and say that we see what's going on, and
I've got the addresses and names and spelling and everything ready for you.
Let's start out right. Get your pen and paper, everyone.
All you people out there listening to this, get your pens and paper out, and we need to all stick together. And if the courts in California hear from people in New York and they realize this case is getting national attention, we might be able to help to get these people be heard, or get these courts to back off from them. This is pure persecution, as most of you have heard who've been listening. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Give the names and the addresses, so that hopefully people out here will write letters to the judge or to the prosecutor and say, we're watching what you're doing, and you're acting in a criminal manner, and you're persecuting these people. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kim, start 1, 2, 3, and as you give the names, people can write them down, and then as you start to explain, you can flesh it out, so that by the end of the show, people will be really motivated.
Okay. Well, I first just want to say thank you to both you, Paula, and Joe for having me on and for playing that portion of the Red Ice interview. And we just are so appreciative to the people who are coming to our aid in the middle of this living nightmare we're going through. And to start things off, we really would appreciate a letter writing campaign to these evildoers over here in Riverside County, California, in the city of Murrieta. And the court that you would need to address your letter to would be the Superior Court at the Southwest Justice Center at 30755-D Auld Road, and Auld is spelled A-U-L-D, Murrieta, California, and Murrieta is M-U-R-R-I-E-T-A, California, and the zip code is 92563. The judge, there are two judges that we sort of alternatively get put in their courtrooms. So I suggest putting both judges' names, and the first judge is Judge John M. Davis, and the second judge is Judge Dennis A. McConaughey, and you spell McConaughey M, little c, capital C, O-N-A-G-H-Y. And the Deputy District Attorney now assigned to my husband's case is Jade M. Holder, H-O-L-D-E-R.
Okay, do you want to start explaining we heard the last hour and a half on your timeline. For example, I was thinking there was that letter that, was it the DA wrote, where he said that because your husband would have his medical license taken away, that they would lower it to a misdemeanor, and then later on they covered their tracks and said that offer was never on the table?
Yes, and there's rumor here going around down at the court. Someone anonymously let us know that the rumor going around down at the courthouse is the man that wrote that letter was initially put on an administrative leave. Then they changed it and said it was a medical leave. We were told he was in the hospital with congestive heart failure. But now the story going around is he has been officially dismissed. So we sure would like to verify that. I don't know that to be the gospel truth, but we did hear it.
You have to be very careful about off the record and so on. Joe, I remember when he went for a sentencing, which it worked out well in Joe's case, but again, this was a couple of years ago, and I'm sure they're taking a lot of seminars to try to figure out how to, keep those shareholder profits up. But people would be told that they were getting a plea of, say, 7 years or whatever, and then the judge would say when they came before them, after they've already signed a guilty situation, the judge would say, you made that deal with the prosecutor, you didn't make it with me, bang, 15 years. So you have to be very cautious. Explain again, for the sake of the viewers, or refresh them, exactly what they said and how that came about regarding your husband's license.
Well, the initial defense attorney that we hired, named Michael Levinson, he was the kind of lawyer that, we interviewed lots and lots of defense lawyers before we finally hired this man, but he was one of those that, everything is great until you pay him $15,000 cash, and then he's not motivated to do one thing. And he literally did not even file a single motion on my husband's behalf the entire time he supposedly represented him. He was late to court 2 different times by over 2 hours. I mean, we're not talking just a little bit, a lot. And one of the times he was late, one of the judges that was sitting in, which was neither of the ones I've given your audience their names, and I'm drawing a blank on his name at this moment, He literally threatened my husband that if his attorney was late again, he would be found in contempt of court, and they were going to put my husband in an orange jumpsuit and jail him. It's just the way these courts work in today's world.
It's a psychological intimidation process.
Yeah, it's just unconscionable.
So you have to be real hip to that going on, and preserve your energies so you can, find the way out, because there always is a way out. That's called due process.
Exactly, and we've been denied it at every turn. So this defense attorney that we had initially, he was one of those, handshake, back door, in chambers, hallway room kind of deal maker guy. He didn't want to do really too much work at all. He would barely answer our phone calls or answer questions. I mean, I just don't even know how people can take, $15,000 from people they know are scared and broke and traumatized, but they have no conscience. But we arrived to the court to have the first time they scheduled a preliminary hearing, which was July 17 of this year. When we got there, no preliminary happened. My husband was barely in the court for 5 minutes. We don't know what was going on that day. They didn't let me go into the courtroom. They wouldn't let my mother go into none of the people that were there to support my husband were allowed to go into the court.
Let me jump in for a second on that one, because I actually wrote down a little note on that when I was listening. Do you know it's illegal for them to do secret trials? When they did that to you, you should have started raising hell outside saying, oh, is this a secret trial? Because secret trials are illegal in the United States. These are supposed to be public trials, and they can't keep people out. They tried that with me, and I started right away raising hell. Oh, it's a secret trial, and the judges didn't want that on the record, so they let the people in that were there to support me, which they tried to keep out on one case. If they try that on you again, I'm not giving legal advice. I'm telling you what I've been through, because I'm not allowed to give legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. But
right.
Stand up.
Understand, and I will take that into consideration if they ever try to keep me out of the courtroom again. Although
raise hell, and if your husband's in there by himself, point out on the record, get it on the record. Say, this is a secret trial. You're keeping people out, and it's supposed to be a public trial. Don't be afraid. Never be afraid to put stuff on the record. Just talk and talk and talk. I drive them crazy. Randy's a witness here. I've had judges' hands shaken. Now, I've won a few cases, and I've lost a few cases. So I can't say. With these people, it's always a coin toss.
Yeah.
I'll just give you a little of my history. Back in 1974, they arrested me for some marijuana, and I had my first wife, and I had 3 kids. And they were going to put both me and my wife in jail. And I said, well, what about my kids, And they said, oh, no problem. We'll adopt them all out to separate homes. So I decided I'm not going to let that happen. And I packed up my wife and my kids, and we were fugitives for 18 years. And I'm happy to say that my kids are all grown now and on their own. And eventually I went back and I straightened it all out. I did a little bit of, instead of the 10 years they were going to give me, I wound up doing 6 months because so many people had supported me and wrote in letters saying I was a good person. And so the judge took all that into consideration. And I wound up doing 6 months instead of the 10 years and losing my family. So I know what you're going through. These people, they don't care how they destroy families.
Oh, they don't. They do not, and it is just mind-boggling. But, now that we are in this, we are like you. We just want to educate people, for one thing, so that hopefully they won't go through this, to get prepared on the front end in case this happens, because we do live in a full-on police state now, and chances are it's coming to a door near you, if not your own. But back to this story of this offer, for this misdemeanor offer. So our defense attorney made some little backdoor deal with the Deputy District Attorney Paul Spatinko, who we were just discussing, has been dismissed, quote unquote, if that is indeed true. The preliminary hearing got canceled, and they literally came out, and our attorney told Dave, they've dropped it to a misdemeanor count of possession. This is great. This is only a misdemeanor. It won't affect your license to practice optometry in the state of California, so you'll still have a way to, provide for your family. This is wonderful. Well, we got our hopes up in the beginning, too. But then we started asking a lot of questions, and we were running everything through our civil rights attorney by then, because we knew we could trust her and that she wasn't part of the old boys club that was out to, hold my husband's hand to the guillotine, so to speak. And so we started asking our defense attorney to, clarify things. What exactly would Dave be saying that he was in possession of? We asked our defense attorney to call the Board of Optometry and discuss with them how this would affect his licensure and things like that. I have a conversation between he and I on tape, and Dave was not at home when I started this conversation, but he got home for lunch in the middle of it, so he never let on that he was listening. But this man, this Mr. Levinson, literally, when Dave wasn't around and I had to deal with him on my own, he would literally talk to me like a low-down dog. And I'm trying to get him to answer some direct questions, regarding this misdemeanor plea offer. And he literally would not answer a direct question. I mean, I got so frustrated, I literally was like, Mike, this is a yes or no question. I don't want to hear another word besides the response yes or no. The man was literally incapable of it. He would not do it. So we became very suspicious as to what was going on. And our civil rights attorney had been seeing what shenanigans were going on, and finally she literally said, we've got to fire this man. He's just making things worse. She hasn't done a defense case in a long time, but she basically said, I couldn't possibly do worse. I will represent you in the criminal case as well. And I cannot even tell you, those were the most relieving words we've ever heard spoken at this point, because we were just frazzled balls of nerves by this time. We weren't sleeping, we weren't eating. It was a nightmare. So she starts asking, once she takes over this case, she starts asking for this plea offer to be provided in writing, so that we can send the offer to the Board of Optometry and we can get people to help us evaluate whether or not this was a good thing to do or a bad thing to do. And they kept refusing to put it in writing.
Didn't she know they never put that in writing because it's actually a fraudulent thing all around? I've never heard of a plea in writing.
Honey,
have you, Joe?
No, they won't. They never put it in writing because they know that what they're doing is criminal. What they'll do is get you to go into court, and then the prosecutor will say on the record, you've agreed to this, like you came up with it. That's how they'll try to make it look on the record, like, oh, you agreed to a plea to this. But they won't put it in writing. I've never seen them put it in writing.
That's why I can't believe that civil rights attorney even thought that was possible.
I will have to clarify that with her. She did most of her defense law in Nebraska, and I don't know if this is, a interstate thing that they never put anything into writing, but maybe she was pushing the envelope and trying to get them to. I couldn't answer to that.
Right.
Well,
But
also, I don't know about Nebraska. Nebraska, some of the states out in the middle do go a little more by law than the East Coast or West Coast.
well, she said she just can't even believe how defense criminal law is practiced in California. She just, it's appalling to her, which is, good to know there are some lawyers out there who see the system for what it is, and they are trying to make a difference from the inside. How effective that's going to be overall,
Right,
we're all going to have to wait and see, I guess.
Right.
But this Deputy District Attorney, Paul Spatinko, did finally call her, and he left a message on her voicemail. And apparently he didn't think this one through too well, because if indeed he is no longer working for the district attorney's office, this is probably why. And I'm going to read what he left on her voicemail. I have proposed a misdemeanor resolution that I think will allow him, which would be my husband, to keep his license. I think it's going to be an answer, but he had to check it, so we put it out one more time for him to check with the licensing board and so forth. But what I have is a misdemeanor proposal on the table. I don't pretend to know how you advise Mr. Dortch, but in terms of, I think, the civil suit with Murrieta and so forth, I would say he should stop throwing good money after bad. Murrieta is a nice town, and his kid did what he did and so forth. I leave it up to you to advise him. He seems like a guy who's kind of got his stuff together in a lot of ways, and he may not want to keep on making trouble for himself. That's what he left on our civil rights attorney's message machine. He never clarified the misdemeanor proposal. He never mentioned that what he told Michael Levinson, our first defense attorney, was that it would be a deferred entry judgment, which would be similar to what our son was put on, which is a probationary period. They have to attend, some classes and this and that, and be good for however long, go see their probation.
Right. You explained that in the first hour.
It goes away like it never existed.
Yeah. Now, who did they say he made trouble for? Who signed the original complaint? You went to make restitution to the people who had the fences, right?
Yeah.
Those were the harmed parties. Those are the real parties of interest.
Right, and they, literally refused to even acknowledge our offer to make remedy to actually correct what our son had done. We were told we could not do that. That, it had to go through all of these.
How about the people who own the fences? Has anybody thought that they might come and say, these fences are our property, and we are happy with the offer that they're doing. We like it better than your big black spray paint job over it, which makes it look worse or whatever.
Exactly.
Have any of them... because I find it's really about community support. You need to get, and I know it's really hard because they're sending out all of this defamation of your character, which I also think should be challenged.